So another curiosity that I've had with the DJI goggles is, can I use them with analog input? The system is really good for the HD system. The DJI Air piece is great, but I don't necessarily want it in all my quads. In fact, I don't think that I will ever want it in my racing quads because there is a little bit of latency and it adds a little bit of weight and stuff like that. Those are sacrifices that I can't be making for a racing career. That being said, it's a lot of extra gear to have your full analog system, your full digital system, and bring all of that out to the field. So my question is, what would it be like to run analog input into the DJI goggles? So if you get the goggles out and you take a look, you can see that there's actually, down over here, an input for analog input. And so this is that standard cable that comes with your external receivers, power, and then if you go into the goggles, go into settings, and go to AV in, it actually switches over, and you can see that we're seeing the feed from my clear view. So I'll just push this button once and you'll see that it changes menus there. Now, a couple caveats that I've already figured out so far with this system of running AV into the DJI goggles. The first is that in the top right corner, you can see there's two options up there. Maybe. Yes, there we go. One is brightness and one is saturation, I believe. And there is no way to get rid of that. Those stay there no matter what, no matter whether it's getting signal, and there's no option to turn it off. I hope that in a future update, maybe we'll be able to turn those things off. Another caveat is that there's a scaling factor for the screen. So you have the ability to like zoom the screen back a little bit so it's not taking up as much field of view. Because like I actually find myself with my eyes like physically wandering around the screen when I'm flying with HDOs or any other Fatsharks, is that I'm locked pretty much straight forward. I'm not like looking over here, looking over here, looking over there, which is what I'm doing with these. I don't know if that's something that I'm going to miss necessarily. I don't know if it's going to be changing the way that I fly or anything like that, but it's another thing to just be aware of. And finally, you can't run the DVR in AV input mode. For whatever reason, you can only record to the SD card when you're flying the DJI Air unit in the digital connection. So that's kind of silly. And for the purposes of this video, I want to give you DVR so you have like kind of the experience of what's going on. So I'm actually just going to grab my trusty old Fatshark HDOs, and I'm going to run the DVR here. So the DVR footage that you're about to see is not off the goggles, but instead out of these. Help if I put an SD card into it. So this is running. I'm just going to set those here. Roughly same intended placement. Here, I'll show you my little setup here. Just right down here. I've got a clear view here with the two antennas. It's all plugged in, running. It's connected to the goggles via the cable here. And then my goggles are there. I know that looks like a terrible spot for them. Here, I'll just do this. There. Now they're recording roughly the same thing. And then I'm going to take that drone and go fly it around. I'll be right back. I'm going to go set this down to fly. Okay, should be getting video. Let's go. So everything's rolling, quad's on, powered on outside. I can see it in the goggles here. Toss these on. Adjust my IPDs. So I'm already noticing that the field of view on this is slightly smaller than on the HD. So like it would be like if I went into the HD and I set it to 20% FOV. No noticeable lag or anything, just arming and disarming. Let's go ahead and take off. Wow, it's really, you really notice the quality of the FPV camera is a lot lower than the DJI one, that's for sure. Especially because all of the pixels are spread out over such a bigger distance. Something feels off to me. I don't know. If I'm making it up or not, but it almost seems like there's a bit of a delay. Although doing like a snap roll, It does seem to be stopping when I tell it to. Maybe I'm just not used to how big of a field of view this is. It's not like I'm struggling to fly or anything. Contrast is amazing. Makes my whole picture look very blue for some reason. Let me fiddle with the saturation and brightness and stuff. So if I... What the... Oh, I accidentally turned off my VTX. Brightness. It already seems as bright as I want it to be. 16 is way too bright. 0 seems on point. On the saturation, I'm bumping it all the way up. I was running at 1 below, and it doesn't seem to be really making a difference. So it kind of looks like what you get is what you get. I really do wish... So that brightness and saturation are stuck there on screen, but because the letterbox is... like it's letterboxing inside of the screen, it's not really overlapping with much of the picture. So like maybe 5 rows of pixels are covered by the brightness and saturation things on top. I gotta tell you, this is a pretty great experience. Like, I really, really like these goggles. I really, really like my clear view, so it's a pretty killer setup, honestly. I'd have to get it on a course to know if I'm messed up by the goggles or not. What I would hope is that the refresh rate of the goggles is 120 hertz, but the what is that? Is it just dog hair? Yeah, it's dog hair. We just brushed the dogs earlier. The refresh rate of the goggles is 120 hertz, but the Fatsharks are only 60. So I would hope that it would actually feel better, but I don't think it's going any faster than it normally does. But like I said, I'm not having any trouble at all flying around the way that I normally would. So I wonder if I got it on a course and compared my lap times to HDOs, there would be a big difference. I'm not sure. Either way, it's a really great experience. I mean, the field of view is almost twice as big as a Fatshark. And the goggles are awesome. Like, I'm not fogging up or anything, which I feel like the way that I feel I am right now, I would fog up if I was not running a fan. But those do have a fan in them that automatically turns on. So I'm going to switch over to the HDOs. I'm going to fly these right now, just in the same way that I was. See if it feels any different. So definitely smaller field of view. I don't know, something does feel better here. Like, there was like a little bit of a floatiness that I was noticing with the other ones. Well, but maybe that's just this quad. Maybe it's just because I'm flying a Freestyle quad, I'm not used to it. Yeah, I think what I'm going to need to do is go to a course, run the course like so if I was freestyling, I would not hesitate at all to use those goggles as freestyle alongside of a clear view. Now, if I was at a track, that's where I'm not so sure about it. So what I think I'm going to do is take this over to the track, run a bunch of laps on analog with my HDOs, excuse me, and then run a bunch of laps on analog with my DJI goggles and see if I'm still getting the same times or close to, knowing that there's obviously some difference because due to like the fact that there's a bigger field of view and I'm not looking at the same spot and all that. I think that would be a worthwhile experiment to see if because maybe you could get to a point where you're not carrying around these. I've seen some people bake like take this whole front panel off and put like a receiver 3D printed into here that wires into the thing, and so they have the ability to run their analog systems on the same goggles. Like, that's pretty cool, and I want to see what that could look like with this. Could this be a viable replacement for Fatsharks? I don't know. So in the meantime, we'll just we'll get over to the field at some point here and test out the difference between running these types of goggles and these types of goggles and see if there's a difference in the amount of latency and the amount of time that I get on the track to see if this is something that could one day replace these. Okay, so we've migrated over to the field. We've got a track setup that I've been flying on and off for the last like month or so. Honestly, like we haven't changed the course around a lot, so I've just been flying this thing, so I know it pretty well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about 10 batteries or so, warm up. I'm going to fly my normal setup on the HDOs with my normal race quad, all that, and just get kind of warmed up, ready to go. Then I'm going to start tracking time on those laps. I'm going to try to do 5, 6, 7 packs, something like that, of tracking that time. I'm going to write them down. I'm going to get the averages and write that down. Then I'm going to switch over to the DJI goggles, run them on analog with a clear view, and do the same comparison. I'll run the same number of batteries, about 5 or 6, and then start tracking 5 or 6 and see if the times on the HDOs match up with the times on the DJIs. Okay, I've now done about 7 or 8 batteries of just hardcore warm-up practice. I'm running pretty consistent lap times now. I can go faster, I can go slower, but I'm running at like a pace that's like on the edge, but not pushing it so far that I'm going to be crashing a lot. So now I'm going to go ahead and start timing my laps on the HDOs. I'm going to write them all, keep them all in a spreadsheet as I go. I've got my timing system right here, keeping track of everything that's going on, and so I'm just going to run those times. I'm going to keep it all written down, and then I'm going to switch over to the DJI goggles, track the warm-up as well as the final times that I'm hitting up there. Okay, just ran my first pack. I got a 15.59, 15.49, 14.64, 15.17, 14.8, 15.4. So an average of like 15 and a half to maybe actually a little bit more, like 15.25 or 15. Okay, so we've got the clear view set up on channel 1, so we're going to be flying. That's going to be our receiver for the DJI goggles. I'm going to have those running to get some DVR because I can't get DVR off of these, and then the rest is all going to be totally normal from what we had just been doing. It's actually kind of nice because I'm running these off of 3-cell, off of my power supply, so like they're not on a battery right now; they're just plugged straight in. But yeah, so we'll get back on the track and see what we can get. Oh, it would help if I plugged it. So I'm running the camera so I can kind of react as I'm going for this first run, maybe first couple runs, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, here we go.
For 39.98. For 16.2.
I feel like I'm overshooting everything. Hit a gate. Hit another gate. Clouds making sounds coming in.
Per 22.09.
Okay. I think from first test, that was not a good feeling. It felt very, I don't want to say like delayed or anything like that, but it was weird to, I don't know, there was some sort of, like I was overshooting all of my corrections and I hit gates twice. I don't know, but I promised myself 10 batteries to make sure I got a good sample size, and so I'm gonna keep on chugging. just a little side note, twice now when picking up the goggles, I've found it unplugged twice. So like for whatever reason, the goggles have come unplugged and I've got to go back through the menus to get into the AV input mode. Minor inconvenience, something to be noted. Jamie is flying the DJI goggles on analog.
Overwhelmed. It reminds me of going back to my HD2s. Yeah, I was gonna ask you if like it feels. I didn't know if that's pixelation or if it's the latency in the actual goggle. It feels really disconnected from the quad. Flying around, it doesn't feel that bad, but then when I'm trying to stay on a racing line, I just flew this quad with my other goggles and I was killing some laps, and now I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to think, is it too much information and I'm just overwhelmed? Is it the pixelation, like the different type of pixels it has, or if it's actually latent? I don't know. Let me fly a few laps here. It almost makes me feel like my quad is like not tuned very well and it's wobbly. It's like a slow, low P-turn wobble. But I know this quad flies amazing and it's tuned amazing. At least I thought it was. I don't know if it's the field of view that's like hopping everything around or if it's the actual latency. Yeah, it's like when I roll and yaw, because obviously I fly with more yaw than you. I don't know, I don't like it. I can't put my finger on what it is. I don't know if it's the too much information that I'm receiving in my brain, if it's the way that the pixels are. I mean, it's really clear. Yeah, it's clear. It's just really massive, but I don't know. Do you feel the same thing?
Yeah.
I feel like,
Sounds good.
is it latent or is it too, what is it? I can't put my finger on it. I just felt like the whole quad was doing this deal. Like, if this is a quad, before I felt real locked in and real one-to-one with the sticks. Now it felt like maybe it is latent because I feel like it's like a low P-term wobble, like I'm just real sloppy and real loose, and that's the feeling I'm getting.
Yeah.
And I think that might be because I'm going this way and I'm letting off and it's latent, so it makes it feel like a wobble.
Yeah.
Like it's that millisecond of it doing visually what the quad's not doing, and you're getting that whole feel.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was experiencing. Is like, so like on one hand, like, so I flew 9 batteries with that on the track back to back, and my times were close to, but I think when I look at the data, it's going to be like a half second below. And then, but like, yeah, I had to basically pre-turn everything. I had to feel it out ahead of the flight before anything else.
Yeah, and
so
you're
like,
on a track that you know by the back
exactly.
of your hand,
right.
So you know exactly what to expect.
Right. So I think that I'm guessing that there's some sort of delay between the goggles receiving the information and the goggles displaying the information. And I'm curious, I wonder if it's the same for the DJI FPV system as well.
And this
so,
is
like,
all stuff that you would never pick this up on Flippy Floppy, Cinema Flying.
Oh yeah, absolutely not.
Never pick it up. But when you're on a dedicated racing line that you have to be within a few feet every single corner, every lap, that's when you start to feel it.
It's not like a big feeling. It's just.
Did you feel that with the digital?
I felt almost exactly the same.
Same thing with the digital?
Almost the exact same kind of delay, too.
Because when I flew it with the digital, I didn't fly the track as much.
Right.
So I couldn't pick up on that.
Well, and that's what makes me wonder is, like, maybe the digital and the analog are both behind some sort of firewall that's keeping it from going fast. Like, I wonder if there's something that they could get out of the way of the, like, maybe there's, like, the onboard processing driving into the panel is, like, somewhat slower.
Maybe like whatever the magic sauce that it's trying to do is taking too long.
Right.
To do it.
Right. Exactly. And is there some reason that it's doing it on both analog and on HD?
So that tells you that it's not the magic sauce in the digital HD part of it. It's the video part of it.
Right. It also makes me
like
wonder,
a slow video card.
Right. It makes me wonder, could the HD feel better too?
Can you change frame rate and stuff on the goggle like you can a computer?
Yeah. It's all set at 120, all that. Yeah. That's what's funny is like
it feels like when you're flying a simulator with a low frame rate.
Yeah.
Or a really crappy monitor.
Or a refresh rate, a low refresh rate. Like I wonder if because the reason that I wanted to try it especially was that I know that the Fatsharks operate at about 60 hertz, and these operate at 120 hertz. So in theory, you should be receiving information faster across the whole screen. but it's not feeling that way, and I'm wondering if there's what the disconnect is. Why does it not feel that way?
It's definitely, like, it took me a minute to process, okay, why does it feel wobbly? Is it that I'm seeing more information, and then that's all moving in my field of view, and maybe that's what I'm feeling?
Yeah.
But then after like 3 or 4 laps, I'm like, no, it's definitely latent.
And that was why I made sure that I dedicated enough time to run a bunch of packs before making any kind of pronouncement. It was that, maybe I'm just not used to it. Maybe I'm not used to having such a big field of view, but I don't think that's it. I think that there's something else going on.
To me, it felt like when I went from a normal FR Sky D16 to Crossfire. That was the
it was not that extreme of a feeling for me, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the feel. That feel of, now if I flew all day with this, you would get that comfortable, predicting feeling. Like you would predict what it's going to do, and you, like, if you fly on low latency all day, you get used to it by the end of the day.
Right.
And then you go back to a fast non-latent quad, and you're like, oh my god, it knows what I'm thinking when I move my brain to the sticks.
Right.
So you could probably get used to it, but why would you want to?
Yeah.
That's a shame.
I think that's the title of the video, is you could probably get used to it, but why would you want to? Jamie's switching back to his HDOs, flying the same quad, same battery.
Oh god, yes. Now it's back. It feels like I turned my rates back up to normal. Well, I found one good use of it. So you just go ahead and fly those goggles for a few practice sessions, and then you grab your own and you feel like a king.
Yeah, it's like a batting weight.
Yeah, I just took the donut off the bat.
So that's going to do it for testing here today. I'm going to pack up all this stuff, head back to the house, and we're going to go run some of the numbers. But I think that the numbers combined with some of the kind of qualitative information that me and Jammer exchanged and some of the other thoughts that I've had about flying it might lead to the result, I think, that the HDOs are still going to be better for analog. That being said, it's been an interesting experience, so let's go find out for real from the quantitative data that we already gathered. Okay, now that we're back in the office, I've taken all the numbers, I've put them into the computer and kind of crunched some of the data, and I guess I'm not really surprised at all by the results. Essentially, for the HDOs, which, are my comfortable goggles, I was running a roughly 15.4 seconds per lap on average across all of the batteries that I flew. Switching over to the HDOs, it was something more like 16.1. The crash to flight ratio was about the same on the HDOs, a slight bit higher percentage. Like I've crashed 14.8% of all laps flown, where with the DJI goggles I crashed 12.5% of all laps flown. So I don't think there's much of a significant difference there, except that the crashes with the HDO I was able to recover from more than with the DJI goggles. Another thing that I wanted to be sure that I took into account was that, I'm obviously still learning to fly analog with the DJI goggles, so I threw out basically the first half of the data and only looked at the second for another average, and that averaged out to more like 15.9, so it's still faster than the 16.2 average, but it's still significantly slower than the 15.4 average lap time that I was running with the HDOs. So I've taken all this data, I'm putting it into a spreadsheet, I'll upload it so that you guys can poke around at it if you want. It's all going to be available on my website, but I just wanted you to have that information available if that was something that you wanted to dive into for yourself. Since filming this video, I've had the chance to get on the phone with DJI and ask them a few questions about some of the things that I was experiencing with it. First of all, the DVR, the analog, the ability to record anything other than the FPV air unit. They said that it is possible to have that record that, and if enough people kind of bugged in and asked DJI to update the firmware on the goggles to allow for it to record analog AV input, it's possible. However, it's not currently high or even on the priority list for the goggles. The second major issue that I noticed was that the brightness and saturation would always stay on screen when you're in the AV input mode, and when I brought that to their attention, they said immediately, no, that is a bug, we're aware of it, it's going to be fixed very soon. Another thing that I asked DJI was, will you be able to zoom in and out on the AV input mode? And they said, like with the DVR recording, it's not a priority, but it is something that they could add later. And the final thing that they actually brought up that I totally forgot to ask about was that they are working on implementing a way to switch between 16:9 and 4:3 for analog input. So if you guys run 16:9 goggles like the Dominator V3 instead of the HDOs or HD V2 or V3 or whatever, you'll be able to run analog 16:9 cameras on your quads and be able to switch between them on the goggles. So it's pretty cool that they are already working on some of these things and they're aware of the other ones, and so they're being really responsive and excited to make sure that we have the best experience possible with the analog goggles. So just to conclude all of this, I think that the DJI goggles are an incredible experience. They never fog up on me. The fan is great. They actually fit my face really well. I know that's not the case for everybody out there. You know, for the features that they have on there, I would much prefer to use that screen to anything else that I use. However, between the kind of weird feeling that I get with the analog input, that slight delay or something like that, I'm not totally sure what it is. Between not having DVR, having to have an external receiver, all of these things, for me personally, I think I still have to have both. I need my DJI goggles for the digital FPV link, but I also need my HDOs for analog. So I hope that that's kind of not a disappointment. It was to me. Like, I really wanted to love and be excited about the DJI goggles and have them, you know, be my new go-to. I think that would be pretty cool, but I just don't think they're there yet. There's a couple things that need to be addressed for them to be in that situation. Now, I think it's possible that down the road they could be there. They could have some different pieces that they can change to make it even better of an experience for using on analog. But is that DJI's priority? Right? They're looking at the future. They're looking at building out a digital FPV ecosystem, and they probably aren't going to be that interested in going backwards to be compatible with analog machines. So we'll see what happens down the road. But I was excited and interested in going through this process to figure out, is it possible? Is it something that we should be thinking about? And I learned a lot about the goggles along the way. I think I've conveyed some information to DJI that they're excited about, and I hope that it at least encourages you, the viewer, to think about what kinds of flying do you want to do. If you're not really trying to be on a race course and you want to just be cruising around with the DJI FPV system, I think it's perfect for it. But if you're really wanting to crush lap times and you're wanting to have that high, like, ultimate perfect performance, I think you still have to have an analog goggle system that's dedicated to that high performance flight. So thanks for listening to all of this. I know this is a longer video, but I hope that it was at least engaging and interesting to you. And until the next one, we hope that you will stay flying.